Welcome to the Radiant Mission Podcast. My name is Rebecca Twomey, and I'm here with my amazing co-host and sister, Rachel Smith.
Hey guys.
We are on a mission to encourage and inspire others as they navigate through this life and with their relationship with Christ. And today we're going to be continuing the conversation about motherhood. Last week we talked about embracing and really finding purpose in being a stay-at-home mom. And today we're going to be talking about finding balance and really discovering joy as a working mom. So yeah, I guess I got a lot to say this time.
Yeah. Like I said on the last episode, this topic will be more your arena because you have a lot of experience balancing both.
And I don't even know, now that we're saying the word balance, do I balance? I guess I do, right? I guess I have to be.
Well, you get it all done.
Yeah, somehow. So to give some context to this, I work full time. I am from home and my kids are here because they're babies. You know, they're 9 months old and 3.
Yeah.
And I work as the director of sales, marketing, customer success for a software company. I manage a team of wonderful folks, sales and marketing and customer success, as the title suggests. And I also do side gigs sometimes. I'm a web designer. So when friends and family reach out to me, or if you need a website, call me. See if I can squeeze it in.
And you run a podcast.
Yeah. And then I also have this podcast and
I don't know if people realize how much Rebecca had on her plate already. And then one day she came to me, I want to do a podcast and I want you to be my co-host. And I'm like, when are you going to have time for that? So
yes.
The fact that she has a very packed full life, and I come on these and chat with her, but she's the one who makes the website, edits, does all the recordings, edits all of them, hosts them all on every platform. I don't know if people really necessarily realize what goes into podcast making. I don't even, because you do it all. Just come on here and record with you.
Yeah, it definitely is a lift, but an extra load, I guess you could say. But I do this because this is my ministry, just like you.
Right.
Well, you and I have talked about this, that this is our ministry, our extension. This is something that I really felt called to do after I just experienced so much of the Lord with my birth with Ben. And I really felt the Lord calling me to share his goodness with other people and to really encourage other women and other men too, other people out there, about his goodness and his glory and how much he can reside in us and how much he can give us if we are willing to give to him too.
Yeah.
And in that prayerfulness and like wanting to do this podcast, I felt him saying, like, Rachel's got to do this with you. She's the one. And here's something else. We haven't really talked about this much on the podcast. I think maybe people are getting it, but I don't think we've really publicly talked about this, that even though you and I are both believers, we aren't exactly the same. Meaning, you follow a lot along with the Torah, and you are very well versed in the Old Testament and in Torah law, and in, you follow the feasts and things like that. You are not in the traditional Christian realm. And that is something that I admire about you. And one of the big reasons why I felt like I was being called to ask you to do this with me, because I don't think it's always great for people to be in an echo chamber. Now, you and I probably are when it comes to certain things like health related stuff, but that's just because we both have had the same experiences.
Right.
It's not necessarily for another reason. But when it comes to our faith, I love that I can learn from you And I
Mhm.
know that other people can learn from you too. And I learn from you all the time. And also, I think we said this when we first started the podcast, is that you and I would have like 2-3 hour conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, other people could benefit from these topics that we're talking about because it's something that isn't always talked about. I think more
Right.
people are speaking up about biblical topics, or, you're starting to hear more about the supernatural realm and the
Right.
Nephilim and, stuff like that, or with medical stuff. But I don't know that there's one place that people are necessarily talking about all these different topics. So anyway, it's a long aside about the podcast.
Yes. That is just part of your working mom hat,
Yeah,
I'll
it's just
say.
part of it. But I think the point is that I do this because I enjoy it and I am being called to do it.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you something, I'm not getting paid to do this. It's
Yes.
costing me money to do this. I
Yes.
pay to host the show. I pay to host my, website and domain and like all that stuff. There's no compensation for any of this. And, maybe down the road, Rachel and I have been talking about maybe we'll start a Patreon or something for those that want to
Yeah.
help support, whatever costs go into this. But for now, it's my money and time and energy. And it's really just all to encourage those of you that are listening. So I
Yeah.
hope that it's impactful. I hope that it's filling your cup,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
and that's all I can ask at the end of the day, is that the Lord uses us for good, and
Yeah.
that he is using us for good, because that's the whole goal here.
Yeah.
So, working mom, this whole thing, it's like, a lot of people are like, how do you do it? I get that all the time. Like anytime that I tell people that I work full time and have 2 little kids and I'm pregnant too.
Right.
Like, how do
That's what I'm always like, how do you do it? Because you're pregnant, nursing, work full time, you're up like all night with both your kids. And I'm also pregnant and I'm like sleeping through the night. That is very necessary for my survival.
Yeah, I think that
So,
I want to start by saying I do believe that a lot of the reason that I'm able to do this and have the success that I have in doing it is because of my personality. I think that we all have different gifts. Every person is given a different gift, and mine is the gift of perseverance.
yes.
Mine is the gift of being like the Energizer bunny, and almost just I'm always doing, and that's just part of who I am. And I feel like I've always been this way my whole life. I actually started working when I was 11 years old. like
Shining dad's shoes.
no, well, if you want to go back to jobs I did for dad, I started way younger because I was shining his
Remember
shoes.
remember we made 25 cents
I
for
was
per pair of
ironing
pants
his
we ironed?
laundry, 25 cents for shirts and 50 cents for pants.
Yeah.
And he always paid us to do odd jobs, not for regular chores, but if there was, extra stuff,
Like shining his shoes.
like shining his shoes. Because he was serious. People used to dress nice back in the day when they used to go to work before work from home. Could you imagine someone being like, I'm paying my kid to shine my shoes?
I
Like,
know.
I don't know many people doing that today, but I actually started babysitting when I was 11. And when
Yeah.
I think about the fact that someone let me babysit when I was 11,
I know.
I think to myself, you crazy fool.
I know.
I
I
would
think about
never
that
let an
too.
11-year-old babysit my kids, but I actually want to take an aside here, because the people that let me babysit were like other homeschool moms that knew me, and it was their
From
kids that
church.
from church, and it was their kids that the older siblings couldn't watch them, and they
Yeah.
would have. So it's not like it would have been any different because the older siblings were my age.
Right.
So, that's all to say, maybe not a real job, but I did I did babysit a lot. So much so, and because if you guys want to know how much one can babysit as a, kid, I saved up enough money to buy a brand new car when I was 16 and a half. I saved up $12,500 from the
Wow.
time I was 11 until the time I was 16
It's
and a half.
crazy to think a brand new car costs
Well, it
$12,000.
cost $15,000, but mom and dad and nanny and grandpa put in the
Oh,
additional
okay.
$3,000 that it costs to buy my car.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, 15,000 or, maybe it was 16 in the end to buy a brand new car back in the day. You
Yeah.
can't get anything less than like 60 grand these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do want to say something though about these moms that let me babysit their kids. And that is thank you. Because if I hadn't have had these women who had, it wasn't just about them having confidence and trust, but it was also about the fact that they were willing to teach and they were willing to allow someone to take care of their kids and learn,
Yeah.
because I learned so much about what I know as a mother from these mothers.
Yeah.
And so if I can give any advice to someone who has children, especially girls, it's get them babysitting,
Yeah.
when they're young so that they
Maybe
can
not
learn these
11.
skills too, because it
Yeah.
helps a lot. And it also will
Yeah.
probably keep them from having kids young. If
I
that's your
know
goal.
I know
I'm
when I first moved to Texas and needed to find a babysitter, I was looking specifically in the church youth group for a high school. I mean, I wasn't, going to the nursery for 11-year-olds, but I was in 15, 16 years old. And because of the experience from, when we were younger, that I think that teenage girls can be incredibly valuable and so much for them to learn, like you're
yeah.
saying, that
Yeah.
that really set you up for not just a future in childcare, because you did work as a nanny for a long time, but also as a mom, like to have
Yeah.
that experience, to be able to have that experience before becoming a mom is a really big gift.
It's definitely critical. I mean, there's a lot of things that I went into motherhood with so much confidence because I knew I could put 4 kids to bed. I knew I could get a newborn to sleep, but I only knew that because I experienced it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'll speak to my nanny experience. I nannied for a family for 9 years. When I started, they just had one son. He was 6 months old when I started, and then when I moved away, that was actually the only reason why I stopped nannying, because I moved. They had 3 boys, and that mom taught me so much
Yeah.
about being a mom. I mean, she taught me how to swaddle. She taught me how, to do schedules, like, how to work on how to, not really schedule train. I don't want to use that phrase, but just how to know what to do with a child throughout the day, how to read cues and stuff like that. Um, I was a night nurse for her second son because she um, didn't breastfeed. And that was a huge learning experience. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But after going through it, I learned a lot about little newborn babies and, just about that experience of being up every 2 hours to feed a baby, because I
Yeah.
literally lived with them from the time he was a couple days old until he was like 6 weeks old. And having that experience was so crucial when I was going into becoming a mother myself, because I felt like I could do this. Like, I've done it before.
Yeah.
And it just gives you the confidence. Now, of course, you're going to run into things like some stuff is going to be hard. I would say that the most challenging thing for me as a mother myself that you won't learn babysitting is the leaps. You go through with
Oh, the
children
mental leaps.
and babies, they go through different leaps where you will get everything will be like running like a well-oiled machine. They're on a schedule. They're waking up every 2 hours, then it's every 3, then it's 5, then it's
Yeah.
6, and everything's perfect. And then boom, it blows up. And
Yeah,
and
because the
maybe
mental
it's for a
leaps.
week, or maybe it's for a month, or maybe it's for 2 months. It doesn't last always for a long time. But that for me, the first time that happened with Brooke, I was like, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, the mental leaps are when their brains just make all these connections all of a
Mhm.
sudden. So it's almost like growth spurts in their brains.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
usually after a leap, then they're making eye contact with you,
Mhm.
or they're smiling, or
They
you
have
know,
teeth.
they're gaining power.
Something's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely, it was hard in the beginning, but then once I realized that they were temporary and then things would settle back in, that was when the Lord really taught me about I'm not a patient person, first of all. Let's just say that that's one of my weakest areas is patience. I'm so impatient. It's a miracle that I'm waiting to find out what our baby is until the baby's born because that's
Yeah.
how impatient I am. Miracle.
Yeah.
But I learned that when I would realize it was a leap, then I could step back and be like, all right, now we know that this is what this is. And I could, use that as my way to like compensate, or I don't know what the word is, but accept the
Cope.
scenario.
Yeah.
And then by the time I had Ben, it was easy. I do have to say I was over reliant on schedules and scheduling and routine with my first, and then when Ben came, it was like, whatever. Whatever happens, happens. You kind of have to be flexible in order to do what I do, meaning to be a working mom that also has kids at home.
Right. Yeah.
You can't be if you're, obsessed with a schedule, then you're just gonna be frustrated and disappointed all the time because it's never gonna go to plan.
Right. Because children are like wild cards.
Yeah, you can't be like, "All right, they're gonna do exactly this at exactly this time." And maybe when you have one, it will kind of work because you can focus your attention on trying to get them to sleep for, a nap or whatever. But when you have two and they're like in different directions,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work. So, my kind of advice to working moms or moms that are taking on working alongside being a mom is, you've just got to learn how to stay cool, Yolanda, because that's really you cannot be controlling over the situation. And sometimes there will be times where I'm on a Zoom meeting and my 3-year-old is like wants to be in here with me. And that's just it's what it is. I work in a great culture, fortunately, and that's another thing is that I also work with a lot of believers, and our company believes in family and stuff like that. So the first step is making sure that the company that you work for is the right company, because if they don't support you or your lifestyle, then you're going to be up against that, which I've had friends that have run into that before. So that's a big thing, but you have to manage your time in between too, and I don't want to strip my children of my time and not give them my time. So that's another part where I have to try to work hard to balance the two. It means that a lot of times I work a lot of extra time at night because I may be just dealing with putting out fires during the day, which happens a lot. And then if there is work to be done, it means I just, I stay up late and get it done. And that's how the day kind of goes. But I do want to kind of share a little bit about why, like my why for um, why I don't have a nanny or why I don't send my kids to daycare. Because that's what a lot of people be like, well, why don't you just, you know, do those things? And it's kind of interesting because I was a nanny.
Yeah.
So it's like you would think that I would get a nanny because I was one. But I think it's actually because I was one that I don't want to have a nanny, because I know that there were a lot of moments that I got to have with the kids that I nannied for that I wouldn't want to miss as a mother. And that's
Mm.
not to say that the mom that I work for was around a lot. It's not to say that she wasn't,
Right.
But sometimes stuff happens and milestones happen while
Right.
you're not there. And I didn't want to miss that stuff, you know.
You wanna be your own nanny.
I want to be my own nanny. Yeah. Exactly.
And you can pay yourself well.
Sure, I pay myself well. That's right. You know, we talked about last time about when you are a stay-at-home mom, it's a sacrifice. You know, you're
Yeah.
making that financial sacrifice. And, you know, Mike and I, we're just both still trucking away over here working because I don't know, you know, maybe it's that I'm not as strong as you are, that I'm like willing to sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, you'll never go on a vacation again. I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. Exactly. But I think part of it too for me is that I still feel like, you know, with what I do for work, I know that I'm able to make a difference with my team. And I
Yeah.
just really am supporting a lot of other women, a lot of other moms that are working too. And so it's just, you know, it's just the right fit for our family right now. But I don't want to miss out on those milestones either. So
Yeah.
that's why I choose to do both. And obviously, I love kids. Just like you said, you always wanted to be a mom. I always
Yeah.
wanted to be a mom. I actually thought I was going to get married young and have kids young. Like I thought I was going to get married when I was like, you know, 20. And that's only because I used to sit under my covers reading romance novels when I was 11 years old after I would babysit.
Yeah.
My Dear Diary, Dear America
Right.
books, you know. But I always wanted to be a mom, and all that, but it just wasn't, you know, wasn't in the cards for me until I was older. So this is another kind of, you know, you were talking about your history last time. I babysat and then so I always babysat or nannied from the time I was 11 until I was 26. And like always, I mean, I would spend my Friday nights babysitting instead of going out because I would rather make money. And, you know, I was
Yeah.
just always had to be working and saving and stuff like that. But I also worked a job. You know, I went to college. I started college at 16. And then I was graduating, you know, early because I started at 16.
Yeah.
So I went to grad school when I was 20 and I was a GTA, a graduate teaching assistant. So I taught college writing while I was getting my master's. So I was teaching, I was nannying, and I was doing makeup. Like I was
Yeah.
just, I'm used to always doing a lot. And after I graduated, I kind of got into this career growth mode. You know, I was in a long-term relationship with somebody, but it wasn't the kind of relationship that was progressing into like marriage and kids. So I spent a lot of my time focused on work and I was always working. This was the time when I used to race motorcycles too. So it was like I was working and then I was having fun, you know, racing my motorcycles on the racetrack and stuff and doing track days. And that resulted in working more and more and more and then working up the career ladder. I moved to New York City and I worked in Manhattan. I worked in a building that was right across from actually overlooking Grand Central. So I'm like, you know, literally worked my way from the bottom from being a babysitter all the way to working in Manhattan, overlooking Grand Central Station, you know, on the 27th floor or whatever it was. And just thinking to myself, I got to get out of here. Like, this isn't for me. This is for somebody. It was for a lot
Yeah.
of people, but it wasn't for me. I enjoyed my work. Don't get me wrong. I've always enjoyed working and working hard and working in marketing and all that kind of stuff. But I did not like the lifestyle that I was living, which was commuting 2 hours each way every day, being on trains, um, sitting in an office all day long until it's nighttime, and then getting home at, you know, 7, 8 o'clock at night and being so tired and barely being able to make dinner and then like do it all again.
Yeah.
I was in the rat race
Right.
and I knew that was not sustainable for me. And when I thought about what the future looked like, I'm like, how could I do this and have kids? This is
Yeah.
not this is not sustainable. Like, I can't have kids and then put my kids in daycare and go do this all day,
Yeah.
because I won't enjoy this. I will miss them, and this is
Yeah.
not for me. And that was when I actually started really praying, like, Lord, please find me the next thing, like, get me out of here, get me out of my Egypt or whatever. you know?
Yeah.
Um, I just really prayed for the next opportunity. And there were two things that I specifically asked the Lord. I said, please, Lord, find me an employer who is a Christian, and also work from home, because I know that in order to live the life I want to live, I need to be working, doing what I do from home.
Right.
And I could do what I was doing from home, by the way. I just, the place that I worked liked you to be there to do the
Yeah.
work from home work at the office.
Yeah.
So I prayed those things. And honestly, and this is what I want really to stress to folks listening, it took 1 year of praying.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just pray for like a week and then the Lord was like, okay, here you go. I
Yeah.
prayed for a year. And the reason that I knew that this came from the Lord is because out of nowhere, I suddenly had 3 different opportunities within days that just popped up. Like, I didn't apply anywhere. I had prayed, had kind of like looked around, but literally had recruiters reach out to me, and a personal friend who owned a business reached out asking if I was interested in an opportunity. And you know what my decision making looked like? Look at you yawning.
Sorry. It's not you, it's me.
She's very bored by my story. I hope other
No,
people aren't bored.
no, I'm not. We're recording at night.
Oh, that's the other thing we should mention, is because I work full time and
Yeah.
have 17 jobs. We record it's literally, I'm on the East Coast at 10:48 p.m. while we're recording.
Exactly. So that's why I'm yawning.
But the real test was that of these 3 opportunities, one of them, the owner of the company was a believer. And I
Yeah.
knew right away by the way that he was talking. And then I kind of like asked him a couple questions, and I just felt like the Lord was steering me in that direction. So anyway, I went that direction, and
And it was a work from home position.
it was work from home.
And you could live anywhere, right?
I could live anywhere. And then that's when I really, as soon as I got the job, I said to Mike, like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Time to
Yeah.
go, got to go. And he was still working in the city. He was working in Midtown Manhattan, and he was working for a company that was totally against his like ethical standards. He worked for a company. He works in the back end. So he worked it as a data analyst, but it was for a company that is a distributor for whiskey.
Mhm.
And he just didn't feel right about it. He was like, I don't think that this is right. And so then we were like praying for him. Like, all
Yeah.
right, well, let's pray that the Lord will help you find the right opportunity for you. And anyway, that is how we ended up both, you know, moving on. And we ended up moving from New York. We lived in Connecticut, but we were working in New York City. And then we moved to Tennessee. And interestingly, during all this time, I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's funny when I think about it, because I almost feel like the stress of not commuting was like, I just got allowed that to just move forward easily,
Yeah.
because it all kind of happened like one after the other. It was like I started working a new job, and then shortly after I was found out that I was pregnant. And so it just kind of moved things along. And I guess this is all to really say I'm used to the grind, because I've lived the worst grind that there could be.
Yeah.
So to me, to work from home in a situation where I know that we're, doing good things and we're all working together, and it's women encouraging other women, and, I'm also able to be a mom to my kids. Um, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that's where this is
Yeah.
all leading. I did want to make a quick joke though. because this is not always easy. Like, I actually told Rachel today I couldn't believe that we were recording today because I had a really hard day at
Yeah.
work today. And I'm going to use a Southern colloquialism that my dad says all the time. Our dad says that some days I feel like I'm wound tighter than a banjo. Like, some days are hard, and I'm not going to lie about that. But when it comes to being a working mom, if you want to, work and be there for your kids, and I would say like most people are probably not like working moms and also stay-at-home moms. So this is
Yeah.
a very probably unique scenario,
Yeah.
but it's really just all about trying to find that balance. How much time are you going to spend with your work and finding that balance with your kids too?
Yeah.
Knowing when you need to shut the computer and stop replying on Slack and literally look at your kids and be with
Right.
them and play with them and play hide and seek. That's Brooke's favorite thing to do right now. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that, the Lord uses all of us in different ways. And I definitely feel like I said, I have the gift of endurance and perseverance. And so I'm trying to
Yeah.
use those gifts in the best way I can.
Yeah. And it sounds like everything you just laid out, like the Lord was preparing you for this time.
Absolutely.
Like you
I
said,
feel that all the time. Yeah.
your gift of perseverance, but also you're the type of person that can handle a lot on your plate. And you've been doing that at a very young age.
Yeah.
So, like, even though you and I are sisters, I don't relate to you in this way because I can't handle a lot on my plate. But honestly, there's something to be said of birth order. There's actually this really great book. It might be called Birth Order. I don't remember, but it's about how you're like where you were born in your family, whether you're oldest or middle or youngest, actually helps shape your personality in certain aspects. And
Yeah.
so, you being a middle child, there's certain things that this kind of goes back to my family and child science degree because we literally studied this kind of stuff. But there's certain attributes of our family structure that helped contribute to this for you that
Yeah.
I am literally not capable of because I was the youngest. You were the one doing all of my stuff for me because I was the baby.
Yeah.
So it kind of shapes you into adulthood. But I think that's where, God puts everyone in their family at the time that they're meant to be there. And then your life experiences helped to shape what you will then be as an adult and that you continue to grow into. So,
Yeah.
when people ask you all the time, like, how do you do it all? It's like, you didn't just wake up one day
Yeah,
and take this all
exactly.
on.
I didn't just wake up one day and say, like, I'm going to do this. It was years of experiences. It was
Right.
years of training. And, the thing that I didn't get to say at the end of this, or that I really just forgot to say, was that I didn't have my first child until I was in my 30s. I think I was
Right.
33 when I had Brooke. So that's something for everybody to really consider is I lived my whole life in many ways before I
Yeah.
had kids. I didn't have her when I was 23.
Yeah.
I had her after I went through every hard thing that you could ever do, especially working in the city is like one of the hardest things I think anybody can ever do.
Yeah.
And I felt like it shaped me. And after working in some of the scenarios that I did and with some of the people that I did, I think I say this to you all the time that like kids are way easier.
Yeah.
Handling children is a million times easier than handling a difficult work situation
Yeah.
because they're sweet and they're forgiving and they're loving. And in a, you know, career environment, in a work environment, that's not how human beings are. It's like, I mean, I worked in the city. They chew you up and spit you out. And so because of that, you're right that it built that endurance, but then it also, I feel it allows me and it allowed me to feel tremendous appreciation and joy when I finally had a child of my own. Because I'd, like I said, I in a lot of ways feel like I already lived a whole life before I had
Yeah.
kids. And so it was like, wow, I get to experience this for the first time. You always make fun of me, but I when I used to when I texted you guys, you and our brothers, about how I was like, why didn't you guys tell me that being a parent was so amazing and so wonderful? And you guys are like, just wait. But but
No, no,
that's
no.
truly how
That's
I
not what it was. It was actually in person. We were
okay.
at our brother's house
Oh, okay. It was in person.
and
Okay.
you were like snapping at us. You're like, nobody ever told me how wonderful it is to be a mother. And you were like, have a 6-month-old angel baby. And we're all like worn ragged by our toddlers and teenagers, like
Yeah.
we're a PTSD. We're like, yeah, it is wonderful until you get to this part. No, it's always wonderful.
Well,
But
I think that that's the thing that's different about our circumstances. And this is where, uh, like you said, like we're all different. Our
yeah,
brothers had their kids young.
yeah, yeah,
They started having kids very, very, early 20s. And then you even had your boys in your 20s. So, in a lot of ways, the perspective that I'm coming from, it was like, I'm old now. Not that that's that old, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. 30s is so old.
30s are so old. I mean, I'm geriatric now. Look at me.
My gosh.
You're going to be too soon.
Yeah. Well,
One day,
not in
one
this
day,
one.
one day. Not yet, but one day you will be. And then you'll know how
Yeah.
I feel. But the point is, their experience was different because they did have kids young. And it's hard when you have kids young and you're also working on building your career. Where mine was like
Right.
the opposite. It was like, I already built my career, I already had all my fun. And now I'm having kids. So I was able to appreciate it in a different way.
Yeah. To
And
realize like how much more wonderful children are than people you work with sometimes.
sure, exactly. I realized, and I also knew, because we're told that children are a blessing.
Right.
And you are right. I did have an angel baby, and that made it very easy because she just was like, I think part of it was my perspective though, too, because I had babysat and nannied children, and some of them were very challenging. And so in comparison, it was like, this isn't that bad. And I think I was just so appreciative for being able to have kids because I honestly didn't know if I was going to be able to have kids. I seriously thought because of having all these crazy birth control situations, having an IUD
Yeah.
and stuff like that, I was convinced that I was ruined. So to me, to even be able to have kids, I was like, thank the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so talk to us a little bit about how you find joy as a working mom.
Yeah, that's a good question. I find joy in the fact that I get to be with my kids and that I get to see those milestones and I, am the one that they're asking for and asking for things for, I guess you could say. But for me, it's that I feel a great responsibility and a great honor that I get to be a mother. And so I want to honor God in very much the same way that you, as a stay at home mom, are looking to honor the Lord. I feel like, I see to honor Him. And by honoring Him, I honor my children and I, dedicate my attention to them and my time to them by finding balance in my day, every day and night.
Yeah.
Because you're right now, I am in one of those weird seasons where my 9-month-old is waking up 3 times a night to nurse. And it's about perspective. That's my biggest thing, is that it's perspective. Like
Yeah.
we can choose to be angry or we could choose to be frustrated. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes I'm frustrated and sometimes I have a really bad day. But I would say for the majority of the time, it's my mindset that I choose to be grateful for these experiences. And
Yeah.
I choose to live in those moments because I know how fast they go. I've watched it happen. All these kids I'm talking about that I used to babysit are like 30 years old now.
Yeah, they all have kids now.
They're grown and have kids of their own.
Yeah.
So I know how fast this can all go. And I know that my little Benny boy, he's not gonna be waking up through the night for me to nurse him because that would be weird.
When he's 30, yeah.
Exactly. Or, Brooke being little and she wakes up and sometimes she'll come snuggle up with me. Like, that's not always gonna be like that. She's gonna turn 14 and I'm not gonna
Yeah.
see her.
You know what I've thought about a lot as a mother, especially like the kids coming in the bed,
Mhm,
because I feel like it's usually the dads who can't stand that.
mhm,
But as a mom, I've never turned my kids away.
mhm.
If they're coming in for a bad dream or they don't feel well, I always have them get in bed with us. And I've always thought this could be the last time. There's
Yeah.
going to be a last time. And you know what I realized the other day that kind of broke my heart a little bit? Actually, this might make me cry. Is there is a last time that you can hold your, like, pick up your child.
Yeah.
And now Everett is 7 and I'm like super pregnant and I don't think I can really like pick him up and hold him anymore. And I don't remember when the last time was.
Aw.
So I had
Well, you're
that
about to
thought
do it
recently.
again, so I
Yeah,
know it's
but
not
like,
the same though. It's
yeah, he's always, your first is always your first baby.
yeah,
And then they're too big and they're like
yeah.
50 pounds. And
But this is the whole point, right? Is like we can live in like bitterness or just stress that our kids are waking us up at night or waking, at all.
yeah,
Or we can hear that cry and be like, "Oh, they need me," you know?
yeah, yeah,
And I think that that's what helps me the most to find joy and to get through is because I know it's funny. I think it was a reel or story that I had put out not too long ago that was something like similar to this, like it could be the last time. And it was when Brooke was coming into our bed a lot at night. And then
yeah.
after I posted that, she like didn't come into our bed for like 4 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, it really was the last time. And then I was all depressed about it, but she's back.
Yeah,
So
she's back. It wasn't the last time.
she's back. But it cycles, it comes in and out. And I think that, you were talking about this on the last episode where you said that kids are only little for so long. Jordan Peterson has this audio clip that everybody's been using on
Oh,
Instagram. It's like, we only
that's
have little kids for
depressing.
5 years
I
and then
think
it's
he said 4
gone.
years. Yeah, that
But
it's gone.
but see, here's the thing that I appreciate about his perspective. It's coming from his own experience. He
Yeah.
shares this a lot that he feels like he wasn't present and that he
Mm,
wasn't there and he was too busy working and
mm.
he missed it all. And so he's trying to encourage other people to learn from his mistakes and to not miss those moments. And so this isn't to try to make if you truly are a full-time working mom that's out of the house, this isn't to make you feel bad and like you're missing everything.
Yeah,
But if you're feeling that pull on your heart, then maybe it's time for your prayer to be to work from home.
yeah,
Or maybe it is a time to prayerfully ask the Lord if it's time to be a stay-at-home mom. Or maybe it's just to find more balance at the beginning and the end of the day, to
right.
really end your workday and be with your kids with just that attention. I just shared a video yesterday that was a different audio of this dad talking about how he took his daughter to gymnastics and his phone died, so he couldn't be on his phone. And he realized that all the other parents were on their phones. And he said that every 2 to 3 minutes, his daughter would look up and make eye contact with him the whole time for an hour, every 2 to 3 minutes. And he was watching her because his phone was dead. And he's
Yeah,
like, I'm not judging these other parents because I would be them too if my phone hadn't have died. But he
yeah,
realized that she was looking for that connection. And so I
yeah,
would just encourage, moms, if you're working, find times to connect, Find
Yeah.
times to just one-on-one. When you get home, like, don't be scrolling Instagram. You can do it when they're in bed.
Yeah.
So spend that time just focused on you and your kids and connecting with them and doing something that's special to them, special with them. And, so many times we're like, well, I got to cook. I got to do this. Involve your kids in that. Brooke loves cooking with me. And I always give her stuff that she's not going to screw up, right? Like, I'll be like, hey, can you stir this for me? And it's just a bowl of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
She doesn't know. She's a
Yeah.
little kid. And as she gets older, she'll be able to do more. Or
Yeah.
I'll have her make she's really cute with this. I'll have her make the seasoning. Let's say I'm going to make breaded chicken. So the breadcrumbs, and then, okay, put this in now, stir all the spices up together. And she'll sit there
Yeah.
and mix those spices for 10 minutes. Like, that's fun to
Yeah.
her. But we're spending that bonding time. And she always tells me that she's helping me bake, because she watches kids baking championships. So she thinks that
Yeah.
cooking, baking. But anyway, we can always find ways to connect and spend time with our children, even if we're not home with them, like I am in this scenario. But I do want to mention a Bible verse that I really resonate with because it's about perseverance. And that's James 1, verses 2-4. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing.
Yeah. That's
Pretty
great.
interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that it really is true in this context of, this is a hard time. Like, I'm not going to say that it's easy all the time. Mindset is like the biggest thing, and just
Yeah.
really trusting that the Lord has me in the right place. And if I ever feel like I'm not, I'm really, asking him for some help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say stay the course, moms, and, find ways to connect with your kids and also your husband too. Got to take that time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't forget him.
That's
He
why
helped
we're
make the
doing that
kids.
marriage class. We got to take time to connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think this was good to just kind of hear and learn from your perspective on being both a stay-at-home and work from home mom. It's a lot on your plate, but you handle it all gracefully, even
Thank
on your
you.
hard days like today. See, you had a really hard working mom day today, and you're sitting here with me recording this episode at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, because it's what I feel, and I hope that this is helpful for people. I hope it's worth it, right?
Right.
To
Yeah.
share this. But it's all about perspective, you guys. I mean, we have the choice, and we're the only ones that make that choice. No one else can make that choice for us. Only we can choose to be joyful. Only we can choose to appreciate the period of time that we're in, or we can choose to be miserable. And, I choose not to be miserable because that's no fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and being on this journey with us. I hope this has been helpful. And if you want to know more about this topic or have questions, definitely send us an email at theradiantmission@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. You can find us Instagram and Facebook at The Radiant Mission or on YouTube. And today we're going to be closing with Hebrews 13:21. Actually, Rachel, do you want to read this?
Sure. May he equip you with all you need for doing his will. May he produce in you, through the power of Jesus Christ, every good thing that is pleasing to him. All glory to him forever and ever. Amen. And we're wishing you a radiant week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.